What exactly did Joe Biden and George Soros do to you and others?
I mean, I'm not going to talk about what they did to others when they were with me, because I just don't think that's fair to them.
Okay.
If they're not speaking out. But as far as me, I mean, I was trafficked. I mean, they raped me, they beat me, they tortured me. I mean, and again, I was trafficked for almost a decade. So, I mean, I was chained to beds, I was chained to walls. I mean, I was chained to concrete floors. You know, they waterboard me. I mean, there was a lot of different things that they did that one person. There's certain things I don't even talk about, because I don't think that people would even can comprehend that someone can go through that. The fact that I'm sitting here in front of you, I should be dead. Like there is no reason why I should be sitting here and talking to you and Claire. Like there's just not. That is why I believe in God and a higher being, because of everything that happened to me. I'm like, no one can survive that without a higher being, which to me is Jesus. You know what I mean? To survive it.
Now, you said that you were trafficked for 10 years. Was there any time period within that 10-year where you tried to make an escape or anything like that? You were recaptured? Did anything like that happen at all?
No. So when I tell my story, so I had originally got into the porn industry on my own and was getting paid and doing it. And then I had freaked out on one of the sets, like just crazy freaked out, like a crazy person. I was like, I can't do this. And so the producer on the set called Derek, who owned me, and said, she's like freaking out, like won't do it. Derek got on the phone. He had a list of my friends, my family, everyone I loved and cared about. And it's like, you're going to do this, basically threatening them. So you have like your porned out makeup, like fake eyelashes, just everything, just porned out makeup. And I'm crying, and I said to the producer, fine, I'll do it. Can I just get myself together? He said, no, I'm going to film it as a rape scene. So then they filmed it as a gang rape, and I got gang raped on camera. And I was like, okay, I know I need help, so I'm going to go get help. So there was a mega church in California, and I went to that mega church, and I said to the pastor, Mike Erie, I need help. This is what had happened. And, think about it. When you're 18, 19, you're a child. I said this before. Claire's probably heard me say this a million times. But, you're a child at 18, 19. You don't have any concept. But imagine being that young and gang raped and going to a pastor and say, I was gang raped and this is what happened to me. He's like, I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you. Well, he ended up giving me to Derek. So when you get into the porn industry, you have drivers that drive you around because they want to make sure that you show up to your actual set, because a lot of girls are on drugs or drinking or whatever. So Derek's drivers showed up and then took me to Derek's house. Derek said, I now own you. So at that point in time, I never tried to escape from at that point on, because I always had someone with me. And it was made very clear that if I tried to, that the people that I loved and cared about, even people that I didn't even really love and care about, that they were threatening, I just was like, I have to stay here, because I don't even think it's going to be me that's hurt. It's going to be them that's hurt. So, and you also get into that Stockholm syndrome where you don't think about leaving because you're under that Stockholm. That's just
umbrella.
Your life.
Yeah. Sure. So, I mean, the phrase human trafficking, it's a very broad spectrum. It's multifaceted. So, I mean, this is a question to both you and Claire, because Claire, you're fighting it this side of the pond, and your expertise is the corporate, yes?
My expertise, I got into this because I started pulling people off the streets and realised there was a lot going on with paedophilia and trafficking and stuff, and people being used, like kids in homes being used from Wednesday till Sunday. They'd be smacked off the head on gear, and then they'd be brought back Monday. So they were classed as temporary missing from these care homes. So in other words, they're being trafficked. And how they were getting away with it was, let's say there was 2 or 3 of them in the care home, they would be blackmailed by someone in the care home that's saying, well, if you two go into it, but we'll keep the little brother out, so he's safe. So these kids were going along with it because they had no choice. So I got through with all that shit and then realised what's going on. And then I'm quite good at understanding warfare. I know it sounds crazy, but how to cut someone off at the knees when you feel the easiest way to do it, cut the head of the beast off. So I started researching, and I did a lot of research, which brought me to the attention of the fact that everything to do with the trafficking is surrounded by all the governments. All roads lead to the top. Forget Rome, it all leads to the top. Everything does. There's always somebody in the top of our governments that's involved with all the trafficking and to do with all the paedophilia. And that's how they all, that's a percentage of them, not all of them, but it's a percentage of them. But basically, if I can tell you the biggest spectrum of what goes on in the world, then you might just get a concept, because it's a bit like Monopoly, but a very vile version of it. Okay, so it's like this. They look at, you've got the superpowers, and they look at a country and then decide which country they can pick on. So, for instance, because if there's some countries on their arses financially, they'll cause a war using religion or something else, or it could be germ warfare like they did with AIDS, which was obviously planned. In Africa, well, that was because it was mineral rights they were after. So, as an example, a war will be caused, and through the war, they get ammunition sold, mineral rights they usually grab or something like that, arms deals, they do all these things and everything. And what's behind it is then they can ship arms, drugs, trafficking, children, everything. Everything's worth money to them. It's a commodity. People, everything. It's human commodity. It's the same all over. So that is basically where we're at, which is the area I've gone down. I've been researching people that have worked in Parliament. I've researched individual lawyers in London, for example. More money, trafficking money, comes through the London Mile than any other country in the world. That's it. End of. We are the biggest fucking perpetrators of human trafficking. And when I say that, I mean, you know, adrenochrone's one thing, but forget that. There's organ harvesting that's going on. I mean, we're talking about children from a certain age that are worth the value of money, and they will literally use these kids until their life starts to diminish. In other words, they're going to die. So they'll have them rape. And these are kids as well. And then when they know the light's going to fade, they'll go to another place, and then they'll just die on a bench, not be put to sleep. They'll die on a bench, and at that point, or sometimes they'll do it while they're awake, and they just when they go into a coma, because they're dying from internal bleeding, they'll just gut their organs out of them. That's it. End of. Wow. They literally use it like it's an abattoir, like animals. So as an example, if anybody's out there that doesn't agree with eating meat and knows what goes on in the abattoirs, that's what's happening with children, and it's happening in our country.
Wow. Because I was going to say to you, you know, human trafficking, it's a broad spectrum, and the sex part of it is just one part. We've got organ trafficking, the adrenochrome and all of that. So,
as an example, Mark, I'll just give you an example. Let's say we had a child that went missing, and this child, it's worth 30, 40, 50,000 pounds. Yeah, or could be more, depending on the age. They'll use that child for a lot of sex. Because if you imagine, if you're going to sell drugs, you've only got one hit on drugs, haven't you? You've only got one hit on arms and ammunition. But you've got many hits on being able to use the child for sex and everything constantly through a ring, like in Parliament, which is the one we were investigating. So a paedophile ring, which is there, that's involved with banking people, that's involved. So in other words, the people that are in Parliament, certain ones, are using the same bankers that are in the paedophile ring because they get good rates and they get to lend and everything. So they're all in this private club. And how they get away with it is they're all in a satanic paedophile ring, that they video each other doing it. So that way, once they're in the club, no one will know about it. And that's your entry. Your entry is paedophilia, probably sometimes satanic abuse, where they literally cut the kids' throats and stuff. But from there, it means you're in it. It's a silent agreement. And there they are. They're away with that. And that is the way it works. And it's all to do with, well, you might not agree with this or not, but not everybody in this country or this world believes in goodness and light. There's a lot of people that believe in Satan out there and satanic cult. And if anyone is standing here now and says, oh, none of this shit exists, well, I'm fucking